Hey, this is Eric Redbeard, and you're listening to Count It Out.
This episode of Count It Out with Mike and Tyler is provided by Cottage Spring.
You are listening to Count It Out with Mike and Tyler.
Well, we are live, pals, and welcome to a humongous edition of the Bill Apter provided by Cottage Springs edition of Count It Out with Mike and Tyler. My name is Tyler, and in just a moment, Mike is going to be joining me with our very, very special guest. He is a WWE Hall of Famer. He is a three-time World Heavyweight Champion, and he is bringing his DDPY workshop to Guelph, Ontario on Saturday, June the 8th. We are going to be joined by the master of the diamond cutter. Count It Out is getting ready to feel the bang because we are going to be joined by Diamond Dallas Page, DDP himself. But before we get to that interview, we got a little bit of business to take care of. We got the Cottage Springs Punch Out of the Week. And now, the Cottage Springs Punch Out of the Week. Find your favorite flavors at cottagesprings.ca. And of course, the Punch Out of the Week this week. A great week in professional wrestling. I feel like I say that every week now, but I want to go back to WWE Monday Night Raw just a few nights ago. I want to talk about the booking of Braun Breaker. Braun Breaker is, I like what they're doing with him. They're booking him like this crazed monster. Poor Kyle Dixon, he was the recipient of a massive spear, and that was pretty much it. I thought the referee stoppage was awesome. It really sold the devastation of the spear. It made the move feel like a big deal. But Breaker wasn't done. He then, took the steel steps and tilted them sideways and bashed poor Kale Dixon's head into the steps with a steel chair. That was devastating. And then, going to Adam Pearce and being like, you should have put me in the King of the Ring tournament. This is your fault. Very dangerous presentation of Breaker. He's got that unpredictable, crazy sounding like Uncle Scott Steiner does, and the brute force that his dad Rick Steiner does. And then, of course, the spear to Ricochet to round out his evening. I'm excited to see what the future holds for Braun Breaker, and I'm excited to enjoy some Cottage Spring beverages while I watch what Braun Breaker continues to do. And that is the Cottage Springs Punch Out of the Week. Stay tuned for DDP.
All right, guys, thanks for listening to the Punch Out of the Week, but here's what you came in to see. We've had so many legends on this show. We've had visionaries like Eric Bischoff. We've had former world champions like RVD, true pioneers like Dory Funk Jr. But today, our guest is someone who is as much a legend outside of the ring that he was inside that ring. He's a former multi-time champion in WCW. He's a WWE Hall of Famer. He's one of the frontline faces of the Monday Night Wars. He's a fitness guru, a wellness advocate, and the creator of one of the most innovative workout and wellness programs of the last several decades. You could be part of his workshop in Guelph, Ontario on Saturday, June the 8th. Give yourself a self-high five and please give us a huge positive welcome on this show only for the one and only Diamond Dallas Page. Dallas, thanks for being here, sir.
I appreciate you guys having me on, man. Just coming back to Canada for the first time in close to 6 years, I think, and I don't say this about everywhere I go, but Canadian fans are the truest fans and the most respectful fans. That Japanese too, but Canadian fans are just so they're not like American fans. There's a lot of great American fans, obviously, but some of them they just they are what they are, and it is what it is. But I've never met a Canadian fan that was anything like that.
I don't know if it's because the Americans take it maybe too much for granted. We don't get it as much as they do. We saw this in France on WWE not long ago when the people in Lyon, France were one of the hottest, greatest crowds I've ever seen. And you have to wonder, is it because they appreciate it more because they don't get it? They don't get that product in front of them on a regular basis, where a guy in, sitting in Atlanta, Georgia, or in Florida gets to see it every other week. I wonder if that may have something to do with it. But we definitely do respect and appreciate our wrestling right here in Canada.
But you're right about that, though. The only thing that I wasn't crazy about, and because I know when you guys are having your football, but you actually have football in Canada. So I don't know if you call it soccer or what, but to me it's soccer and football, just because of how I was raised. And when I listen to if I'm watching a soccer game in the UK, on the Premier League or whatever it is, the fans are such a part of it, and they get into these chants, that makes sense for that football. But when you've got Cody and AJ, two of the best, it's for the world title, they are putting on an emotional match. And those chants lose it for me. It took me out of it at times because, I'm not even a big fan of "This Is Awesome," because it should be, whether it's AJ or Cody or DDP. I want to emotionally pull you into that match, and even though we all know it's staged, we all know it's there, but it's theater, and the fans get to be a part of it. So if they're chanting something completely off sides, and I don't even know what it was, but it took me out of that match a little bit. As great as Cody's friggin' for the title, to defend the title, and of course AJ is a future Hall of Famer. I mean, he's one of the greatest, as far as I'm concerned, ever. Sometimes I'll just text him and go, "You really are Superman." Like at 45, to be doing still what he's doing is pretty damn amazing. And I am so glad that he's one of the guys who really gets the preventative maintenance. Like when he first went into WWE, he blew his back out bad in Japan. And, friggin' Chris Jericho, who's the guy who really put DDP Yoga on the map when it came to the boys and the girl. Like, he has turned so many musicians. All he does, I said, CJ, if they're friends of yours, just get them to me. I'll hook them up. He still will send me an email with someone on it, or, plays, for Metallica or whoever, but also wrestlers. And he's the one who reached out to me and said, AJ is, he's really not feeling good, and he's about to come in. You need to give him a call. So I call AJ, and he never answers his phone, but he answered that day. I said, bro, you're 10 miles from me. Get in your car and get over here and let me get you on the right path. And since then, once they learn it, then it becomes part of their own. It becomes part of their toolbox. Those guys don't even need to hear me or see me. They already get it. So they're doing what I taught them with what they've taught themselves, how to help heal themselves. And that's why AJ can do, and Jericho for that matter, can do what they do at the age they do it at the level they still do it. It's pretty amazing.
Absolutely. And now, go ahead, Mike. I want to get right in. I was going to say, let's get into June 8th, because this is a huge event. Making your return to Guelph, Ontario. If I'm not mistaken, the last time you were over here, you had one of the biggest turnouts for one of these events. Just tell the people that are listening that maybe don't know much about what this workshop's going to be, what they can expect, and just the whole energy that you're going to bring to Guelph, Ontario on June the 8th.
I call it inspiration meets perspiration. And, I know a lot of people, and probably half, maybe 60% will be just fans that do the program or have heard about it and, well, God, I'd love just to meet them or whatever, but they don't even think they're going to. But as soon as they walk through the door, after they put down where they brought their mat, I mean, this is going to be on a football field or a soccer field, as I would call it. So you don't even really need a mat, but it's helpful. But they put their stuff down, and then they get on the line because my wife, Paige, yes, my wife's first name is Paige. So, yeah, she's kind of Paige. What's really crazy, her maiden name is McMahon. Like, I'm not making that shit up,
That's so funny.
For real. And we do the every single person who comes in, they come through and I basically greet them and welcome them. And some of them have a story to tell me or whatever, but they get that little bit of time before the next one comes through. And I don't start until every single person who's there comes. Now, if someone comes late, they'll catch me at the end. But it's so that people don't have to worry. I used to walk around and do it with everybody, but that guy's too crazy.
It's hard, yeah.
When you're over 100 people, which we already are, and again, I will take the time with everybody. That's why I space it out for 2.5, really 3.5 hours. I'll be there at 8 o'clock when doors open. We start at 9:15. Whenever I'm done greeting every single person, and they all get a selfie. I mean, what I charge for a selfie on an autograph session is 60, and $100. That's what I charge just for seconds, So I'm not coming there for the money. I'm coming there because of the guy who is hosting this is one of 5 master instructors, which means he can teach DDP yoga at every level. He also just happens to be an MD, a damn medical doctor who works in the ER in the Guelph area. And he came to me because of pain, not to me, to my program, Dr. Marcel Doré. And he loved it so much, he would come to the retreats. And as soon as I started creating this, instructors so he could share it, he was one of the first guys right on it. And then we went to our second level, and then we went to our rebuild level. And this is going to be interesting because there is no place you can go and do a group workout where you will have some of the fittest people on the planet and people who might come in with a cane, and have to use a chair. Because I'll put Marcel in front of the people who need to either sit in a chair or use the chair. And I've completely eliminated excuses. So after, the meet and greet, I'll go up on stage and I'll just talk, and it'll be pretty damn inspiring. My goal is to have them so not motivated, because motivation comes and goes. When you can light a spark in someone, it's really powerful, man. When you can really light a spark in someone, it helps them to start to really want to not just change their life, but makes it on the way to own their life. And so no one can tell me they can't do my program, because they start in bed, then sitting in a chair, then using a chair, then it goes all the way to psycho extreme stuff, So that's one of the messages I like to give everyone. Like, anyone at any level can do this. I got to read something for you guys, because I've been reading this. I spoke in front of like 1,000 people last week in LA. And one of the things I did was read what I'm going to read to you guys. It's really powerful. Let me just see where the hell it is, because I hate when Amazon or Apple keeps changing everything, because I lose where it is. Okay, this is something like, I'm going to drift off of the program right now, and I'm going to talk about the app, DDP Yoga Now app. Anybody can try it, 7 days, free. If you decide to keep it, you keep it. If you don't, you don't. Don't matter to me. We have such a constant churn of people, that some people get it and some people may not get it the first time. So one of the things I do on Fridays, I will go to this DDP Yoga page on Facebook, not mine. Mine is DDP Yoga, 2 words. I used to write it as 1 word, though. DDP Yoga, 1 word. If you go on that Facebook page, you will see it started with 5 guys, 3 guys and 2 chicks who were trying to help themselves stay accountable. That's what you do. You get with 5 people. If you all have the same like-minded mind, there's a really good chance you'll be able to do it. Even 2 people can do it. 1 can do it, but it's harder. When you got 5, that 5 turned into 20. It turned into 100. It turned into 1,000. Now there's over 78,000 people on that page. Wow. Yeah. They're members. They're not. It's not. I didn't start it. So I go there and I'll just reach through and I'll see things that really inspire me. And I know when you've got 78,000 people, it's going to push through, and you're going to, before you know it, within a couple of hours, that post won't be up front anymore. Like, you got to keep going through it to find it. So I grabbed this guy's post, and after I read it, I called one of my guys who does all my, technical online stuff. I said, Robert, find me a guy named Brandon, and I spelled his name because I couldn't say it, Holthaus. Find me that guy's number. I want to call him. And this is why I called him. This is what he wrote. 1 year ago, after 2 years of having DDPY, but never using it, I decided the rubber has to meet the road, otherwise the car won't reach its intended destination. This is heavy. The hardest workout is and always will be pressing play. Once you accept, in the beginning, it's going to be difficult. It's amazing how easy it becomes. I have overcome 3 herniated discs and multiple back surgeries. It's the reason I found Diamond Dallas Page and DDP Yoga. I read comments here all the time, and a lot of people doubt themselves or worry about useless things. Hopefully this will give them, some advice that might help. For those who will start Monday, they need to prepare. Preparation is essential, but after a certain point, the only thing left to do is act. Any more preparation is, at best, a waste of time. At worst, a comfortable lie we're indulging to protect ourselves from the possibility of failure. For those who say, well, I don't know what to do, or I'm not good at this, this is the greatest line I have ever heard. Embarrassment is the cost of entry. So when I'm speaking to these 1,000 people for this corporation, I said it again, embarrassment is the cost of entry. I said, how many people here, raise your hands, how many people here were amazing at something they never did before? Raise your hands. Oh, none of you. No one is great in the beginning. And my wrestling was brutal. It was horrific. And even when I started having matches in front of people, semi-watchable, But at some point, I got pretty fucking good, But it takes time. Embarrassment is the cost of entry. If you aren't willing to look like a foolish beginner, you will never become a graceful master. I hope this helps others. I know I get inspired by so many amazing posts, and I'm hoping this might help someone too. I know you can't give someone the desire to change, but maybe it'll help spark something. Thank you, DDPY, DDP, and Paige, for saving this father of 2 beautiful little girls' life and extending his life a few more years.
Wow.
Like, that's powerful shit,
100%.
And all I'm doing is rereading what he said, so I'll do the inspirational stuff, and then I break it down and I do the Diamond Dozen. These are the main moves we will use. So I break it down, super simple, make it so anybody can do it. I modify it 10 different ways, which I'll say when I'm doing the workout, actually doing the actual workout. Now, some people, that diamond dozen might be enough. They're going to sit down. No worries. I'll always tell people, make the DDPY your own. It's only on you. Don't worry what other people are doing. So if you want to stop there, cool. We'll talk about breathing, which is huge. We'll talk about how to engage and gauge muscles so you raise your heart rate up so you get in the fat burning zone standing still. And then we'll get into a workout in probably about 30, 40 minutes. And then we take a big group picture with everybody. And anybody I missed on the meet and greet, we hit them on the end of that. So, I mean, we're giving a lot, but I'm also going up to see a bodybuilding show. So it just configured on the same time. I can see this bodybuilding show where I have two of my friends who do DDP yoga, who are top, professional bodybuilders, but also use our power cuffs. So I'll get up there to go see them, but I'll also get to spend some quality time with Dr. Marcel Doré and his wife, and the next day after we're done, we'll be gone. But it'll be a lot of fun too. I make it fun.
Absolutely, that sounds awesome. And I'm looking on your Instagram page here, Diamond Dallas page, and I've got the post up in front of me. Entry is $89 to get into this, and I see the email address here, ddpyogaworkshops.com. So if you're interested, is that the best way that people can email to sign up for this thing?
That's how I push everything through ddpyogaworkshops.com, and they can see all the same things I just talked about there. But that's pretty much what's there. And like I say, again, I make it fun because I'm not just, a fitness instructor. I'm an entertainer. And I want you to be entertained. I want you to laugh. I want to inspire you. It's amazing the response I've had. Like, I can't tell you how many people that come up to me, like in the airport. Oh my God, I started your program and it's changed my life. It's like, awesome. It's like, I don't take any of it too seriously, because it is pretty amazing, but I don't really focus on that. I focus on who am I helping next? Like, have you guys seen the difference between Scotty Riggs?
Oh, wow. Yeah. He's
crazy.
Jacked. He's jacked to the moon now.
It's really, and that's from lifting lightweight, wearing the power cups, and he's been doing DDP yoga the whole way through. He wasn't when he was sleeping in his car and getting ready to kill himself, because is anybody even going to care? And Scotty Riggs is one of the nicest people ever. So I'm glad Marcus brought him into the crib. And when he got here, he was like, what can I do for you, D? I said, take care of you. Because if you give yourself the best version of you at 57 years old, or 56 or 57, I said, it really helps me, bro. No, it really does. Because if your body just changes somewhat, with the power cuffs, I already know you know how to do DDP yoga, but you haven't been doing it for a while. But if I can get you just doing that, and we can show a transformation, it'll help me. It's one of the many that'll help me. I never expected him to go through that transformation. That transformation was crazy. Really was. I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. Pretty crazy.
Before we get into your wrestling career here, which I really want to hit on, I do have to say one thing about this program, and then ask you a question that came in from a listener. But the first thing I got to say, you read that testimony from I believe his name was Brandon.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how much that hit me personally, you reading that, because what he said is the hardest part is to press play.
Right.
Dallas, I've had this app on my phone for 8 years. 8 years. I put it on my phone when I first started quitting smoking 8 years ago. And I am very proud to say next month I'm 8 months smoke free.
Awesome.
But I figured this was going to be something to distract me from smoking and stuff like that. I used it for 2 weeks, stopped using it. picked it up 3-4 years later, stopped using it. I'm using it again. But here's the thing. You said something amazing. You said, I'm taking out excuses. And I am the king of excuses. I work 50 hours a week. I've got 2 jobs. I do this podcast. I don't get home until 3 o'clock in the morning from my job some nights. It's there's so many excuses. What's the number one piece of advice you have to people whose excuse is, I don't have time?
I think that's bullshit because you waste so much fucking time all the time.
Yes.
It's not you, it's everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone wastes so much time. What I try to tell people to do, it sounds extreme, but it's really not, because sometimes, I heard Rogan say this once, and it's so true. Sometimes just showing up. Like, I have people who, like, I saw a girl, her name was Jennifer, and she is one of my level 2 instructors, and I saw her to put a video up the other day, 2,600 days in a row. 2,600. She's got a full-time job. She's got kids. I mean, she's a busy working housewife, and she broke her back. When she broke her back, she went to the bed shit. That's where she started to go back to and worked herself off that, and she has no back pain after she broke her back. My point is that when you make something a habit, a lot of people think it's about motivation, and this is something I'll talk about. Darby Allen just texted me. Because he's coming back from injury, and where's the first place he's coming to? It's me, because he's one of the few guys who's I got the cold plunge. You got the cold plunge, the oxygen hypoxia training, helping with concussions and healing your body. He got that. He's a guy who is preventative maintenance. He's taken every tip that I've ever given him. So back over to, a lot of people think it's about motivation. It's not about motivation. Motivation's here and gone. Inspiration definitely is the next level of being able to, you're inspired by something. So you go back to that and it gets you back on the mat. But discipline is the truest form of self-love. And when you really understand that, like, I'm going to tell you a story about Mike Tyson. I ran into Mike, I don't know, years ago. And, we were both fans of each other. He's a big wrestling fan. So, and I was a huge fan of him. And at some point he started talking about his father figure, his mentor, his trainer, this guy named Cus D'Amato. Now, at the time, he's 14, 15 years old. He's a kid. And Cus is in his mid-70s. And Cus moved him into his house with his wife. And every day he would say to him, Mike, I know you hate discipline, but if you could just learn to do it like you love it, you have the potential to be the youngest heavyweight world champion ever. Like, you really have that potential. And that was his inspiration. There was no guarantee of that, but that was his why. That's why he went on this journey, because this became his dream to be the youngest, not just to be the world heavyweight champion, to be the youngest world heavyweight champion ever. That's why a kid who's in and out of juvie constantly, all of a sudden starts learning what work ethic is really all about. It's why a kid who hates discipline learns to do it like he loves it. And his why was so strong. And that's a big thing. People don't, when they start program, well, I just want to get in shape, right? They're not specific. Why are you doing this? Because your why, if it's strong enough, will keep you doing exactly. And if you miss a day, fuck it. Get back on it and just keep moving forward. Don't beat yourself up. Because Mike's why was so strong, he manifested that why into reality.
Wow.
And I was listening to Jocko. He's a military guy who has a podcast, and I catch him on different clips. And I heard him say something I've been saying for years. He said that, what is discipline? Discipline is telling yourself the truth. like telling yourself the truth about where you are right now in your life and what's your why. You see, when you can tell yourself the truth that you know you can be better today than you were yesterday, because every single person, by doing one thing, can be better today than they were yesterday. When you tell yourself the truth that you know you can be better tomorrow than you are today, you don't have to find discipline. Discipline finds you. Because all discipline is doing something that you know you need to do, when you need to do it, whether you feel like doing it or not. When you can do it, like just a piece of it every day, it becomes a habit. When it becomes a habit, discipline becomes really, you start to really understand that it's your best friend. It's a superpower. When you get to, like, if I tell someone I'm doing something, it's done. It's not like, and it could be a month away. It's done because I've already logged it in, know exactly what I'm doing, and I'm going to do it. When you have that kind of a power, and that's something I will talk about with people. When you really, when we're doing the workshop, when you really can start to figure out that discipline is not a negative thing, it's a fucking superpower. I mean, it really is. And I'm going to teach you how to breathe. Breathing, everybody takes it for granted. We can go without food for weeks. We really can before we die. We go out without water for days, but we can't go without our breath for minutes. And you're out, you're done. When you can own your breath, because everybody, especially after that bullshit COVID thing that that they did to the world, which is the biggest, but it was just unbelievable. I got my own theories on that whole thing, but the bottom line is it fucked up the world. And the anxiety level, every single human being knows anxiety now. I will guarantee you, the next time you feel the slightest bit of anxiety, turn a camera on yourself, and you will realize that you're not breathing. The only difference between excitement and fear is whether you're breathing or not. Think about that. Oh my God, this is incredible. You're full of air and oxygen and light. But instinctively, as soon as we get anxiety, if we don't completely stop breathing, we breathe like this. I breathe like this. I feel anxiety coming. It's kind of like age. I heard Clint Eastwood say one time, he was Toby Keith. He was playing golf with Toby Keith, and then Toby had said to Clint, "What are you doing tomorrow?" While they're playing golf, and he goes, "It's my 88th birthday." This is 5 years ago. It's my 88th birthday. He's like, "Oh, that's amazing. What are you doing?" He said, "I'm starting another movie." On your 88th birthday? Yep. He's like, "Yeah." He goes, "How do you do it?" And this became part of my affirmation that I will go through from time to time. When the old man comes knocking, I don't let him in. I just saw, like 3 months ago, Clint started another movie. He's 93 now. So the story we tell ourselves is so important. And one thing that you said right there in the beginning of that, Mike, you said, "I'm king of the excuses." That's a brand you give yourself. Mm-hmm. Now, when you start saying, "I used to be king of the excuses, but fuck you," that ain't me anymore. Right. When you start saying the repetitions of affirmation leads to belief. And once that belief becomes a deep conviction, things begin to happen. Now, that's not my quote. I read that quote on Brainy Quote about 5 years ago. And when I got to the end of that quote, I went, holy shit. I know his affirmation. Like, what are the odds of that? There's a quote. This guy says, the repetitions of affirmations leads to belief. And once that belief becomes a deep conviction, things begin to happen. How is that possible that I could know his affirmation? Well, let me break down that quote. Repetitions of affirmation can be really good, or they can really fuck you up. You telling yourself you're king of the excuses, you fuck yourself every time you say that, just so you know. Yeah. So it'll be the last time you say it to yourself and not hear me in your ear.
There you go.
Like, yeah, stop that. It doesn't have, when people say, I can't do it, if you say you can, you say you can't, you're right. If you say, I can't do it yet, makes the impossible suddenly possible because I'm working on it. So back to the repetitions of affirmations, you say that shit enough, you believe it. It will lead to belief. The repetition of affirmations leads to belief. And once that belief becomes a deep conviction, things begin to happen. Now, I'm not going to tell you who said it, but I'm going to tell you what he said. And you tell me if you think you know who he is. This is what he said over and over and over and over again. I am the greatest. I am the greatest of all time. Who said that?
Muhammad Ali.
Who said it?
Muhammad
Ali. How do you know that? How do you know that?
It's just iconic, right?
Exactly.
He believed it.
Because they believed it. He said it over and over, like you said, yeah.
Since he was a teenager. He'd been saying the same shit. When he died, Time magazine, that famous picture with him with the fist out, with the red gloves and the white trunks and his shirt off. And it said, the greatest. And then the time. They put his name under that, but in little letters, the greatest. That's who he's known by. The repetitions of affirmations leads to belief. And once that belief becomes a deep conviction, things begin to happen. There's two guys who were my hero growing up as a kid. One, Muhammad Ali. Yeah. Two, Sylvester Stallone.
Sure.
Stallone wrote something when me and Rogan were talking about him, putting him over, and just talking about how great we think he is. And he put it up on his official site. Thank you so much for, like, Slide, like The Rock does all his own shit. And he friggin' thanked us and said, I've got a great deal of, how did you put it? Respect for these two men. And he put me and him. Last month, when you saw the Butterbean video come out, he wrote, congratulations to Butterbean, a real warrior, comma. And I am, capital letters, stunned by Diamond Dallas Page and his extraordinary healing abilities.
Wow.
That's my hero.
Rocky.
The other one, God, had to be 25 years ago. No, 27 years ago. It's 1997. I am the wrestler of the year in WCW. I am the guy. I couldn't be any hotter. And I'm going to go to autograph session, and there's so many names there. But when I saw Ali was there, and he had an early morning thing, he was there for one day. I got up at 6 o'clock, took an early flight. I'm going to fly in there early. I'm going to be waiting for him as soon as he gets done. And I sat on the tarmac for like 4 or 5 hours. Can't remember how long it was. But all I know, I was winding myself up. I don't do that. It's bad anymore because everything comes down to the story you tell yourself. And friggin' today I'd be breathing, going, it's going to work out. He's either going to be there or he's not going to be there. It's going to work out. That's what I would be telling myself today if I was hyped up like I was back then, which I was grinding. I was just like, got to get me there. I had a car picking me up, taking me, and he's done. He should be out the door, and I'm in that green room, and it's packed. And I can't find him. He's not there. I hear behind me, Diamond. And I turn around. He could still talk then. Not good, but he could talk. And he goes, come here. As I'm walking to Muhammad Ali, he says, lock up. I didn't call that. He called that.
That's amazing.
That was a moment, bro.
Right?
That was a friggin' like.
That's a life moment.
That was a fucking what the fuck moment. Like, thank you God, thank you God, thank you. I got to be with him on 3 different occasions. I don't know my other. Oh, here's another picture of this right here.
I love that.
And the last one, I didn't get a picture, but he was leaving, and they were pulling me in. He was getting in a van, and it was just taking off, and I jumped out of the car. I go, Ali, Ali! The van stopped. I pulled up, I hit the door opened up, and I got to give him a hug, and that was the last time I saw him. But that's the kind of stuff that it really inspires me. Where I look at the guy who's the most well-known person maybe ever, besides guys if you like Beethoven and Bach and
right.
George Washington or Abraham Lincoln or whatever, but he's in that box of
he's got to be the most recognizable athlete in history.
Absolutely.
Of any sport. Yeah.
And how he did it, All right, let's get to some wrestling because I know you got to get that, and I got 15 minutes. I got to get.
All right, Tyler, what do you got, buddy?
Well, something you mentioned that you do at your workshops is you talk to everybody and they have moments. And I have a personal Diamond Dallas Page moment that I would like to share. I was sitting in the 9th row at the Toronto Skydome, WrestleMania 18, just about an hour away from where you're going to be with your workshop in Guelph there. And you have just defeated Christian, European Championship, and here you come over the barricade. And you're coming right at me, and I'm losing my shit. Here comes DDP. I'm ready for it. I got the camera out, ready to go, and you get right beside me, and I guess the guys working with you are clearing the pathway, and I go flying over 2 rows of chairs. Got my shoulder tapped, but it's on the DVD. I had my moment, and I got to put the diamond up in front of you, so I had my DDP moment. But what was that night like for you? That was your first WrestleMania in our home country, Toronto. Well, technically your first in-ring WrestleMania because, Toronto and WrestleMania and DDP go hand in hand. But how cool is that full circle moment for you from the pink Cadillac to laying the diamond cutter down on our very own Christian?
Yeah, pretty surreal, man. To think about that I was there just 10 years earlier, driving the pink Cadillac and trying to get a break. I was in the AWA at the time, and how I got that is check this picture out of Luke and DiBiase.
Oh wow,
I love that.
Luke put this up on his Facebook, and he said under the caption was DDP before he was DDP, because what had happened, Jake had come in my club in Fort Myers, Florida, and of course, I took care of him. We hit it off big time. And he told the boys, like, hey, there's this cool dude, blah, blah, blah. If you work Tampa one day, Miami the next, that's 300 miles. Fort Myers on the west coast of Florida is like right in the middle of it. So Jake, told DiBiase, told the boys are coming in. And there's a picture later that night of me and DiBiase doing upside down tequila shooters. That's after hours. But it was Luke. When he saw the pink Cadillac, which is this right here, this is back when I was managing guys and shit. And if you check this out, I didn't notice this till recently. Look at my jeans. I've got holes in the knees. That's 1988. So I don't know how many people were doing that before me, but I got pictures to prove it. But he saw that pink Cadillac. And he's like, Diamond, Jimmy Hart, he needs a Cadillac to some kind of a convertible honky tonk, and how about it? I think this would be perfect. I was like, cool. He goes, let me call Pat. I want to call Pat Patterson. You're call Pat Patterson right now. He called Pat up, put me on the phone with him, wanted to know what it would cost. I said, if you drive it up there, because this is 62. You need to get it up there, and get it back and fly me up and back and put me up, I'll drive it for you. It costs you nothing, bro. So the car got the gig,
Nice.
not me. So to be able to go back there, and lucky enough to work with a talent like Christian.
Yeah.
I mean, that cat, like, ton of respect for him and Edge both. I love those kids, back when they were kids. Now they're old men like me, not as old as me, but we're old boys out there. But he's still performing at its highest level.
100%.
And he could have been a humongous baby face. All he would have had to do is work a baby face style, and the crowd's going to be at best split. But he didn't. And everywhere we went in Canada, because we looped all around Canada, he was as big a heel as he could be. And it was great that was, unlike Undertaker, I'm still undefeated at WrestleManias. but it was a great moment. I had said myself years and years before that, I got to work at WrestleMania. I got to work at WrestleMania. What I should have been saying, it's very important, the story you tell yourself. Both of you need to hear that. If I would have been saying, I've got to be in the main event at WrestleMania, I would have been. Somehow, I would have made it happen because that would have been the only thing, but I wasn't. I got exactly what I asked for, to work at WrestleMania. And they didn't take care of anybody in WCW back then. If anything, they beat everything down. And understandable, I get it, it was business. But they put me over in that on top of that, which was, cherry on top, But I say that the only time Diamond Dallas Page was really showed up in WWE was the first day and that day. After that, it wasn't. That's why I did stuff with TNA back when it was Impact or whatever it was called back then. Because I just wanted to show people like what I could still do at 49, even though I took that time down. Because I almost broke my neck coming off that one bump I did with Bob Holly the following Monday. And, no matter, I wouldn't change anything, because I would have loved to have had a People's Champion versus People's Champion. But what I've been able to achieve outside of wrestling, that I wouldn't change anything, because maybe it doesn't work out like this,
So this normally wouldn't be the one question, can I ask DDP? But in the last 3 months, I've been dying to talk to you about this. And then all of a sudden this opportunity comes. So I have to talk to you about this out of tribute. 3 months ago, our listeners know this, Counted Out lost a family member, a very good friend and teammate of ours by the name of James Dekker, passed away at the very young age of 43. And we've done everything we can, and we've done everything we can to tribute him on the show. And I think it's kismet, it's whatever you want to believe. If you believe in some sort of weird spiritual thing, that we're here today because Dallas, believe it or not, back when we used to do our backyard wrestling thing, you were his favorite wrestler. His backyard, his name's James Dekker. His backyard wrestling name was Diamond Dekker Page. He was the biggest DDP fan I knew. So it's so great. It's sad to me that he can't be here to witness this interview, but it's great that we're here to do this for him. And a few months ago, we decided to change our theme song for the show to tribute James. His favorite band of all time was AC/DC, and his entrance music for backyard wrestling was a song called DT. So we took that song, we gave it to a musician, and we said our exact words, Jimmy Hart that shit. And it came back. We have the greatest theme song, and he really did Jimmy Hart that shit. Which brings me full circle to ask you about your theme song and what it was like to work with someone who I've heard you on other podcasts called Jimmy Hart a genius. What was the process like of sitting down with Jimmy and working on that song and getting it from what people could have called a be it a tribute, a rip-off, a parody, to something that is now the DDP theme song. It's not a Nirvana tribute anymore. It's the DDP theme song because of the passion that you and Jimmy put into it. What was that process like?
Well, Jimmy, when he first got there, he said, listen to some music and something that you identify with, and then we'll figure it out. So, I was a big Nirvana fan back then, and it was that song, and I can't remember the other one. Smells Like Teen Spirit, and I can't remember what the other one, but it was just as hot at the time. And I liked them both, but I like Smells Like Teen Spirit, I like that a little bit more. I thought that was really the song of the 90s.
Yeah.
It really was. And when I said, but how are we going to do that, Jimmy? And he said, simple. I go, okay. He goes, we just reverse the note. He goes, it'll sound the same, but it's not. He goes, and they will not be able to sue us. And if they do, they would have to really come at us for it. And because he controlled that, we were allowed to do that. Now, when it went to WWE, and they got antsy. They don't deal with anything even possibly. I mean, tattoos. Like if you have a tattoo, they've been sued over tattoos. Like, wow, okay. It was what it was. I would have loved to have had that, because then these young kids who are become Diamond Dallas Page fans because of the Monday Night Wars on WWE. Think of that though. There is no way without it's going all the way back to the tree huggers, who World Wildlife Federation, having to change from that to WWE. Everybody thought, oh my God, the worst thing ever happened to them. What I have found, and I will say it over and over again, and I can tell one story after another, and DDP Yoga is the best example. When I broke my back and they told me my career was over, it was the worst thing to ever happen to me. I just signed a multi-million-dollar 3-year deal. It's going to go away if I can't get back in the ring in 6 months, and they're saying it's over. Well, they were wrong. And 3 months later, I was back on track because of what today is known as DDP Yoga. My point is, it looked like it was the worst thing that ever happened to me. It not only was the best thing that ever happened to me, it was the best thing that happened to hundreds of thousands of people. Like, that's how you really can, like, you think it's the worst thing that ever happened to you, and it turns out to be the best. And so I try to always think about that. When I tore my rotator cuff, there was a point where WCW, Jocko Bill Watts, was letting me go. So I told him I was leaving beforehand. I wanted my release, even though I'm going to get fired, but Jake was in my life, and Jake, who I met in my club, later would come to the power plant when he came into WCW just for a couple of months to work with Sting and whatever. And then Cowboy came in, and those two did not like each other. So he pulled Jake's contract away, and it was the most money Jake was ever going to make, gone. So Jake at some point was gone. But while he was there, me and Kevin Nash, I'd freaking carry his bags and freaking get the car, and all he had to do was drive. And me and Nash got to sit at the foot of Yoda, for about 4 or 5 months. Yeah. And then he left, and then I tore my rotator cuff, and then I'm done. And Jake called me up, and next thing you know, he's living with me, and Kimberly said it was okay for him to stay 2 weeks. He stayed 3 months until he lost that 12-foot Cobra in our house. That's when it's like, he's got to go. But without tearing my rotator cuff, without being let go, I never go on the independent scene. It's kind of like what Cody did, but different, because he already could work, but he couldn't work top guy style because he hadn't worked that yet. He understood the psychology of it, but he hadn't worked that style yet. And he got a chance to do that everywhere he goes because he was the top guy. And look at him today.
Mm-hmm. I could sneak one more question in about that, then, because I know
Yes.
we're on to the end of our time here. But WrestleMania 40, Night 2, Cody finishes the story, one of the greatest main events in WrestleMania history. Can you take me through that night for you? Because you had such a great story about him at the Royal Rumble. I know the love and respect you with the Rhodes family that you have. What was that night like for you to see Cody get that moment? And what was your first conversation like with Cody after the show?
We literally, because he's been on the road so much. Well, let me tell you, going into it, I got 4.5 minutes to do this. Going into it, I was there at all his high school championships too. I mean, we go back to where he's 12 years old. So there was a point in time where, you know, it looked like The Rock was going to come in and steal his moment. And I kept telling him what I just told you. You know, sometimes the worst things that look like the worst thing to happen to you can be the best. And he actually did say that in an interview. Dallas always, you know, continued to tell me, no matter what it is, no matter what happened, it's going to be the best thing to happen to you. When he lost the first time at Mania, I said to him, is it really so bad if you lose? Like, the fans are going to want it for you more than you. I go, it's not a bad thing. He goes, what if we don't get back to it? I go, but what if you do? And with your vision, you will. So I would just be there for him. And I didn't really get a chance to talk to him. And couldn't even really talk to him. Well, the 27th, we're going to get together. Because when, you know, I was going to go in that ring, but that was all company guys. And, you know, the family was there, and I could have gone in, but I just wanted to give that's his moment and WWE's moment.
Yeah.
And I waited for him to come through the curtain, gave him a big hug. I go, dude, thank you so much. I'm like, hey, I'm leaving for Bora Bora tomorrow. I'll talk to you. And I gave him 3 weeks of not even trying to get a hold of him. When I text him one word, yo. If he texts me back, yo, then I'll text him. You know, when I want to text him.
That's
But we finally got to talk yesterday, and he's living the dream on a different level. And he's like, what can I do for you? Like, that was the first thing out of his mouth. Like, what can I do for you? And I'm like, I don't know. Let's get another Power Cup workout. And then I thought about stuff later, just because, you know, we've always looked out for each other, you know. And I was just so happy that I could be there, you know, to watch him go through that journey. And I'll still be there on the high points, but it goes to show the same thing that I lived when I got my first world championship. Because Dusty used to always say, there's only 2 things real in our business. One is that first world championship title, and the other is the Hall of Fame ring. You know, and that moment, having that moment with that championship, the highest one, the biggest one, you know, it's goes to show you work ethic. And nobody knows how hard that cat works. Nobody. I do. And I know how hard he worked when he was sophomore in high school, getting ready to be undefeated his junior year in the ring, on the mat. He had a work ethic that's second to none. And that's why he is where he is. And he is the best representation that you could have in the business. And Roman was amazing, and he will be back. But we still got to see The Rock come back from the movie he's working on right now. And he's playing, I can't remember who the guy is. But
Mark Kerr, I believe.
Yeah, he's a mixed martial artist, you know, and so Rock's going to come back with a whole other arsenal, which is going to be really interesting. And here his 50-year-old ass is out there, again, another guy who has an insane work ethic. I'll tell you this last thing. He put me over so huge. You probably never saw the video, but it was me talking about how what's happening right now with the bloodline and The Rock and Cody and all of that. It reminds me of back in our day. And I put the slap, as Rock called the slap heard around the world. I put it over huge. And I said, The Rock coming in elevated everything. It elevated everything. Like, he's the biggest star in the world, and he's one of us. And Rock, he didn't just send me a thing about Butterbean. He said, hey, I left you a voice message. And there was, because it runs out after 59 seconds, there was 3 of them.
Amazing.
And I'll keep as long as I live. It was super heartfelt that I understood I understood what was happening. And I understood what he brought to the table. And Jake taught me it years ago. It's like, there's got to be someone who matters. And there were 2 guys that mattered who had a really big face-off, him and Roman. Now we had Rock to that, and then had Seth to that, and it just like boom, 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 boom. It just exploded. It'll go down as the greatest, the greatest wrestling pay-per-view ever, and he's on it. So it'll be really interesting to see when Rock gets back, and then Roman gets back. Going to be interesting.
Unbelievable. If that does not pump you up, I don't know what will. Huge thank you to Diamond Dallas Page. Big shout out to the DDP workshop coming to Guelph, Ontario, Saturday, June the 8th. Only $89. You can meet DDP. He will take a selfie with you. He will sign something if you bring it. He's going to put you through a great workout. He's an amazing guy. I'm pumped up. I can't wait for this event. It's going to be phenomenal. You can go to ddpyogaworkshops.com to get yourself a spot. Get on that quick. They had a huge turnout last time in Guelph. It's going to be another big one. It's going to be phenomenal. That's it for the show this week. Next week, stick around. We got Pretty Ricky Wildley coming on the show. It's going to be a fun chat. We're going to talk all about his big event coming up on Friday, June the 7th. Busy weekend that weekend. He's going to have Brantford Wrestling going on. That's going to be a good time. We're going to talk a little 1991 WWF. But on behalf of Mike, on behalf of Diamond Dallas Page, you have been counted out and feel the bang.